So, g'day guys, Daniel here from the Caravan Industry Victoria, and I'm here with Linda Hitch again to talk about some key information, and we think this is probably a good starting point for people. So, Linda's from Hitch Engineering, and she's also a certified VAS engineer through Vic Roads here in Victoria. So, we're going to talk about compliance plates, Linda, today, and the importance of the information on that, not just for consumers, but also with regulators. So, you'll just give me a quick overview about that. So how about you?
Absolutely.
How about you sort of explain why it's so important to understand the information?
All right. So from a regulatory stance, every vehicle needs to have some form of identification. So Australia has also followed suit with the rest of the world in having a 17 number and letter sequence of a vehicle identification number, and that goes across every vehicle that is ever driven on a legal road. And caravans, it's no different. You will find a caravan will have a VIN stamped on it, as well as a plate, and that's required by law, as well as additional information where you as a user need to be aware of what the limits are for your caravan, because you need to be able to tow it safely and within the legal boundaries within the state and the nation.
Yeah, correct. It's sort of I think you summarised it well there, where there's an ID number that sort of forms the key aspect, and then these key regulatory requirements that associate with the compliance of that vehicle. So
yeah,
what I'll bring up, Linda, is I might bring up Vehicle Standards Bulletin 1, because we sort of use that as a good guiding principle. Now, I know we're going to start at the compliance plate, or a vehicle plate as it's known, and the VIN number sort of comes in as we go along. But did you want to sort of talk through what's required? Because there's actually not a lot of information required, and then we actually get a lot more information that our industry tries to put on there to help consumers, which we'll step through. But did you want to sort of go through?
Yeah, absolutely. So according to ADR 61, the requirement that a trailer has in terms of identification is purely the manufacturer of the caravan, the model of the caravan, the date it was manufactured, as well as the ATM, which is the aggregate trailer mass. And they're definite items that can be captured and that can be identified by the manufacturer. As well as that, legally, it does need to say that it complies with the Motor Vehicle Standards Act. That is a definite. And quite a lot will also have a speed condition as well. That's somewhere generally right down the bottom.
Yeah, so that's
not a lot of information, I find, and so I'm really quite thankful with the VMAP system, where you have GTM as well as things such as your tear mass, which is the empty mass, your tow ball mass, both at tear and at maximum. So every little bit of information, I think, helps the caravan owner load their caravan, I'd say, safely and legally.
Yeah, correct. So you sort of talked about the VIN number. That's what explains it there. And then obviously the other key one is a registration plate. It's got to be at the obviously visible, and at the back, they're sort of the size requirements, and then 1300 mil above the ground. And as you probably can see, I've got it in the search function ready to go, but the information talking about speed ratings sits under the tyre placard information. So did you want to sort of take us through that information, Linda?
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously tyres are an integral part of the caravan, and you need to have them set up correctly, which is why a lot of the caravan manufacturers opt and select a tyre specific for that application or that style of caravan. So they'll provide what the tyre size is, what the rim size is, and so with that wheel will also have a rating associated with it. So legally, you cannot have a tyre whose maximum loading does not meet your ATM. It needs to, at a bare minimum, meet that ATM and above. So most of the manufacturers have a very generous window when it comes to meeting the minimum. So they do, I find through a lot of my audits, I haven't found one that was under.
Yeah, I think
So that's great.
probably what's important here, you know, these are sort of some guiding principles and the speed rating you talked about. But this
Cold
is sort of,
inflation pressure.
you know, what our industry does is they combined typically the tyre placard and the vehicle plates together, whereas in a motor vehicle, you'll tend to find your tyre placard on a sticker on the inside of your driver's side door.
That's correct. Yeah.
So it's different. Motorhomes are different too, where they've got two different labels with the second stage manufacturer.
Yeah.
So there's, you know, this is probably the key information and source of information to people to start, which, you know, this is sort of the Bible so to go by for your products that you buy and you're traveling around with. And what's probably important, each of these ratings and how they interact, we're going to go through in a couple of other sessions because it's quite intricate. But what we're going to do is also show you what typically is on our caravans and RVs, and our friends at Caravan Industry Association of Australia, the National Association, have developed some posters for the industry to sort of push them into certain aspects, but also what they've done is they've sort of set some requirements for their RV MAP program, which sort of says, you know, as Linda sort of said, you should have GTM and TARE, which aren't legal requirements, etc., etc. So you can sort of see on a plate like this, and I might zoom in just a little bit more, as you can see, manufacturer name. Now, as we sort of showed you with ESP1, not all of these are requirements, so not every caravan will have them, but this is what, as a part of this program, that they do, which is the manufacturer's name, the date of manufacturer, the VIN number, the vehicle model, the ball loading at TARE, so that's obviously what the ball weight, you know, the coupling weight would be at TARE, your rim size and profile, your TARE weight, your GTM, your ATM, load carrying capacity of the product, your axle group loading, and whether that's at ATM or GTM, because the axles could be different based on how they're certified.
Right.
Tyre pressure, the tyre load ratings, and the tyre pressures at cold.
Yeah.
The tyre at max loading, and then you've got your speed ratings, and then you've got your statement down there. So, you know, there's a lot of information there, Linda.
And it's really important, Daniel, because so it's very interesting to note this plate, you're actually not allowed to remove that. That needs to be permanently on the vehicle. And which is why they don't want you to use screws to be able to fix that. It needs to be, I normally have pop rivets on the ones that I do the inspections on. Yeah, like that there, or the one-way screws. Yeah. The reason why is because when the manufacturers design these caravans and the subsequent chassis suppliers, they work to a maximum design level. And now this is why it's so important. You think, oh, it's just a plate. Well, the plate actually ties into what was the initial design intent for that caravan.
Correct, yeah.
And if you remove that, that information is now gone, and all you have is the VIN number. And granted, some place in more recent caravans, obviously that VIN number information remains, but in systems prior to our good old computer, it was all paper copies. So once that's gone, it's gone, and we don't know how was that vehicle's design, what steel was used to design that, what grade, what was the rating. So it's very important.
You made a great point. It's probably something that we want to try and get out as much as possible, that, you know, you go buy a caravan new, it's different to when you buy it used. And there's probably a couple of aspects to that. How I talk about a new, you know, think about like a car yard where there's cars that are already sitting there that you buy off. So in our industry, we know them as stock vans. So a manufacturer would make a stock van and send it to a dealership to sell off. So the weights, and then if you want, the weights are when they were manufactured. So then if you want to add solar or you want to add some other modifications that the dealer might do, your weights won't be your weights that are on the plate, because it's what was manufactured to in the first instance. We're talking a lot about weights and separate topics because it's very intricate in what each of them mean, but it's important to note that. Then if you buy one that's being built for you as a customer van, as it's known in our industry. That's more specific to your needs and what you've ordered. And then, you know, used is a whole nother kettle of fish. You know, there could be toolboxes, solar panels, air conditioners, annexes, all that that's been added on after manufacture, after it's been originally sold by a previous owner, so the weights won't be what's stated on the plate. So these weights are as it was, so it's really something to be mindful of when you're buying them, but also when you're looking into them and how that would work with your tow vehicles and the like. So we're going to go into sort of the ratings and all that, particularly in tyres, in a later topic, but we probably wanted just to highlight this as a source of key information around each of these. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing, just picking up off your point with a secondhand caravan, is you really do want to do I recommend a pre-purchase inspection, and also once the body is found to be structurally sound, take it to a weighbridge, have it empty, and then have a secondary plate put on there. It's really worth doing that if you're unsure, or just weigh it. And if your tear mass is gravely different, you need a new starting point, and that plate is very much well worth investing that bit of time and money in getting that established.
Oh, correct. And I think, you know, we all probably don't. It's not a real common thing, and it's not a practice where people understand. You know, I go buy a new gadget from one of our caravan shows, and I put in this caravan, and then the weight implications, and then you sell it on to someone else. You don't think about it. It's not a first. You know, you're worried about what you're buying, not what it is. So it's important to understand that the weights on the products that you're buying might not be what's the plate, because that was what it was originally manufactured.
And that's where some people get caught out. Yeah, I agree.
So that probably summarises it for this topic, because we're going to break them all down as we go along. There's some other segments that we're doing in terms of what are weights and how they work, and there's cars and caravans, and then there's also the tyres and how that all works. So as I sort of stopped sharing there, that probably wraps it up for sort of, you know, those key bits of information, unless you got anything else, Linda?
No, I think it's very much worth going into the weight. So if people are eager to hang around a bit, I'd strongly urge them to get some clarification, listen in on that session. It'll be well worth their time.
We're going to talk about, we sort of could have covered it, but we're going to talk about upgrading your vans and all that in a separate topic, because it's such a big item. So yeah, stick around, have a look at the agendas, and you know, stick around with us, and we're going to talk lots more caravan and camping. So we'll speak to you soon.
Thank you. Bye.